with Kate, we're going to be talking about something completely different than medical coding. And y'all are going to think that I'm crazy, but whatever. So, almost a week ago, I think, I was looking through YouTube, looking at all the suggested videos, and I've been getting a lot of medical topics, other medical videos, and I came across one that was talking about touring an OR. I'm like, that sounds interesting. I don't know what an OR looks like. I've been in an OR when I was having surgery, so I don't remember any of it. So I'm like, I want to watch that. That sounds really cool. Watched it, and okay, I have found another career that I'm really interested in, and it's not coding. So this YouTube account is called Surgical Tech Tips. I'll link them down below. And I'll also have a couple of videos that I find really interesting that I think will actually be helpful for coding. But hold on, I'll get there and explain why, all that good stuff. So, as I'm watching this video on touring the OR, and then I see there's other videos about different tools and how to set up a sterile field and all of this stuff. I'm like, this is really interesting. So this job, career, whatever you want to call it, is called Surgical Technologist. And I had never heard of this before. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. So I found a video on there that talked about what a surgical technologist is, etc. And you do not need to be an RN to be in the OR and to actually be working in the OR, which is crazy because I thought to even step foot in an OR and at least do some form of task, etc. within the OR during surgery, that sort of thing, you needed at minimum a nursing degree or being an RN, whatever. So once I found out that there's a job in the OR you don't need to be an RN for, I want to learn more about it because I think that's fascinating. So as I'm watching all these videos, I'm finding, wow, I really like the tasks of a surgical technologist. I like the organization, being detail-oriented, a perfectionist, everything has to be in its place in a specific way. Oh my goodness, just everything about it I was so interested in. And I think it's crazy that I just got my certification as a CCA, and I'm like, maybe I should look at programs that's for surgical technology. That's kind of a crazy idea, but hey, I really like it. But what's really, really interesting is how similar the basic concepts or whatever are very similar to coding as far as medical terminology, anatomy and physiology, knowing every step of a procedure or surgery. And I do that every day that I'm practicing, and then hopefully when I get a coding job, I'll be doing that every day, reading op reports and reading the surgeries and breaking it down and knowing how does this all work, what are these processes, etc. So I'm like, okay, so there is some connection. I can bridge these two even though they're completely different. I want to look more into this. And the more I was learning as I was watching these videos is the surgical technologists, they are meant to set up the OR, set up the sterile field, get all of the tools and instruments that are needed for the specific procedure they're setting up for, get all of that, follow sterile technique, help the surgeon in the surgery as far as passing instruments, taking instruments off the field, etc., that sort of thing, and then breaking down the OR and getting ready for the next case. So I'm like, this is really interesting. I really like this. And I'm able to pull from my previous jobs as far as being organized, setting things up, a very effective way of doing things, etc., and knowing all of these different tools. And it's a very kinesthetic job, especially with learning. You have to be hands-on and learning all of these procedures to do them, and also with learning the tools, etc. So I'm really excited. And the local technical college has a surgical technologist program. It's just under 2 years, and that's taking into consideration the general academic course study stuff, because this is for an associate degree. Now, yeah, I have my bachelor's, and I think I'm going to go back for an associate's degree, whatever. But I have half that already done because I have my bachelor's. So the program should go by fairly quickly, probably a year-ish. And you also do clinicals and internships, that sort of thing, where you're actually in an OR working with someone and getting hands-on experience that way. So that is what the program is all about. I think that's exciting. The program, the tuition for the entire program is like $3,900, and that's taking into consideration the general academic coursework that I don't really need. And since I want to learn more, I'm like, hey, I work at a hospital. Why don't I figure out what type of openings we have at our hospital? Who can I contact and maybe shadow in the OR? Oh. So I checked out our career webpage. There's a ton of surgical technologist positions, so they're always wanting people, so that's good to know. And it had the HR recruiter linked in one of the job postings, so I emailed her and said, I am working as a health information clerk in medical records at this site, and I have my CCA and I'm working towards a coding position, but I came across the position of surgical technologist and I think it's really interesting and I want to learn more. Are there any shadowing opportunities, or who can I talk to learn more about this position? She emailed me like 10 minutes later on a Saturday, and she said, yeah, thanks for reaching out. So-and-so is a supervisor of surgery. I'll send him an email and he'll get in contact with you in the next week or two and see if there are any shadowing opportunities for you. I'm like, oh, this is exciting! So I sent the supervisor an email as well, and he emailed me back on Monday, so 2 days later, and said, yeah, we can definitely set up a shadowing opportunity. What are the days you're available? So, no matter what, even if I don't want to go into surgical technology, I just want to go in the OR and see what it's like. So the fact that I get that opportunity to at least be near the OR, talking with the professional surgeons, other surgical technologists, etc., even getting a tour of an OR that is not being used, that will be awesome. If I actually get to go in during a surgery, that will be even better, because the one unknown is, how will I react to seeing someone, a real human being in 3D, within reach, being cut open and working on their internal organs, etc. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. Yes, I've seen videos and on TV and stuff and people being cut up, whatever, but that's a 2D image on a computer screen. Very different than the real life thing. So I honestly don't know if I'm going to have a visceral reaction to it, if it's going to be gross, or if I'm not really going to be fazed by it and still find it really interesting. I don't know. So this will be great for me to see if I can handle being in an OR while a surgery is taking place. And essentially, as a surgical technologist, you're standing right next to her, across from the surgeon. You're right there as they're cutting the person open and working on it and handing them tools and blah, blah, blah and all that stuff. We'll see if I can handle it. Hopefully I can. This is really, really interesting. So that will be happening in the next week or two, doing the shadowing. I don't know the exact date. I gave the supervisor of surgery multiple dates, times, etc. So when that happens, I will let y'all know what it's like. I'm so excited that I actually have the opportunity to go into an OR, and probably while a surgery is happening. That's so freaking cool! It is so awesome. I'm really excited, and I wanted to tell y'all about it. So, I will do an outro later once I figure out what I'm going to do with this. If I'm going to tack on day of the shadowing to this video. And we'll see what happens next. Okay, still haven't done the shadowing yet. It's only been a couple days since the last video portion that I recorded. And I thought it would be really good for me to tell you what questions I plan to ask the supervisor of surgery and or whoever I'm going to be shadowing, because I still don't know how the shadowing is going to work. Am I just going to be given a tour from the supervisor of surgery? Is he going to be with me and that's how the shadowing is going to happen? Or am I going to be paired up with a surgical technologist? I'm not really sure. But I wanted to at least give you all the questions that I plan to ask whomever I'm with. Hopefully they can give me answers depending on what their role is. But then what I want to do is at the end of the shadowing, I can give you all of the answers to these questions, or at least the answers to the questions I could ask, so it might not be all of them, but it's the things that have been rattling around my brain that I want to know or that I think would be good to ask. Get that information to learn more about the position of surgical technologist. So one of the questions that I'm dying to know is whomever I'm going to be alongside, asking them when they first went into the OR for the very first time as an observer or in the position they are holding, what was something they did not expect? Another question would be for both the supervisor of surgery and when I do speak with a surgical technologist, what advice would you give someone who is either thinking of going into surgical technology, like myself, or a student in a surgical technology program who hasn't done clinicals or been in an OR professional setting yet? What advice would you give them? Also, since the surgical technologists are there to also make sure everyone, including the surgeon, is abiding by sterile technique, etc. If the surgeon or another person in the room breaks sterile technique, what do? How do you go about telling them, oh, you shouldn't have done that or whatever? How would you handle that situation? I don't know. I'd like to know. Because who knows how often that comes up. And how often do surgeons or other people in the room slip up with sterile technique? I don't know. How often does that happen? Never? Sometimes? I don't know. Another question would be, if you're with a surgeon for the first time or one of the very first times you're working with them, and they're somewhat difficult. They're either really hard on you, they like things a very specific way, and when you don't follow them, they get agitated or whatever. How do you handle that? Because in one of the Surgical Tech Tips videos, they did bring up that some surgeons can be very particular or be very hard on the surgical techs or whoever's in the room, that sort of thing. So how do you go about handling that? Another question would be, I have heard from other healthcare workers who work in the OR or work with employees that work in the OR, and they have said that some surgeons tell the surgical tech, I can get all my tools, you don't have to do that, and then you end up standing there for the whole procedure, not doing anything. How common is that? Does that happen? This is specific to my facility. I would ask, what is the most common procedure or type of procedures that happen in this facility? So it'd be nice to know, what do we mainly deal with? Also, another question along that line is, what sorts of teams do we have? Are there surgical techs that are on the transplant team? Surgical techs that are on the cardiac team? Surgical techs that are just with the ER, etc.? How do we have that all set up? And then if there are specialized teams, if I do find I have an interest in either of those, what is the best way to work towards being a surgical tech on those teams? Also, another one that would be really interesting to ask, and mainly for the supervisor of surgery, I assume he would be the one to ask for this. if I decide I want to go into surgical technology and I get into the courses, I am a very kinesthetic learner, so learning about all the different tools and instruments that surgical techs use or that are used in surgery, it is very helpful for me to have those 3D tools to learn their names, their uses, etc. So what does our hospital do with all of the tools and instruments that are no longer usable in surgery? And is there a way to acquire a set of them that I could buy, loan, whatever, before they are shipped off to wherever to be destroyed or reused, whatever, so that I can have my own set so I can learn about them? Because I don't know, and I don't think, that the surgical tech program at the local technical college gives you a set of tools to practice and learn while you're taking the program. I highly doubt they do that. That would be expensive, because some of these sets of instruments, or at least from what I've seen in the surgical tech videos, there's maybe 100 different instruments in one general case or toolkit. So that would be very expensive. So to help me learn, if I had my own that I could either loan, borrow, whatever from the hospital, is that a possibility? Who knows? So those are some of the questions that I'd like to ask. And hopefully I can get through all of those questions, depending on who I'm with, what the time frame is like, and hopefully I'll have answers, because those are kind of the burning questions. Hopefully the next time I see you, it'll be the day of. I might even do a clip of when I get an email from the supervisor of surgery, when we nail down a date and time. I might go on camera and say, oh, it's going to happen tomorrow, or whatever. Who knows? But hopefully the next time I see you will be the day of the shadowing. So I'll see y'all then.